My name is Isabel Montgomery, and the day I found my mother's emerald necklace missing from her jewelry box was the day I declared war on my stepmother, and won. I'd been living in my childhood bedroom for 3 months, recovering from a messy divorce that had left me broke and broken. Coming home to the house where I'd grown up should have felt like sanctuary. Instead, it felt like walking through a museum where someone had been rearranging the exhibits when I wasn't looking. My stepmother Vivian had moved in 2 years after Mom died, bringing her 22-year-old daughter Scarlett with her. Dad had been so lonely, so desperate to fill the silence that Mom's absence had left behind, that he'd practically thrown himself into Vivian's perfectly manicured arms. That Saturday morning, I'd gone to Mom's old room, the one Dad had finally moved out of last year, to look through her jewelry. I did this sometimes when I missed her most. The ritual of touching her things, remembering how they'd looked on her, kept her close somehow. But when I opened the mahogany jewelry box with its red velvet lining, my heart stopped. The emerald necklace was gone. Not just any necklace, the one my father had given my mother for their 10th anniversary. The one she'd worn to every important event for 20 years. The one she'd told me would be mine someday, running her fingers over the stones while she spoke about the love that had bought them. I tore through every drawer, every compartment, every possible hiding place. Nothing. The matching earrings were still there, but without the necklace, they looked orphaned, incomplete. Looking for something? I spun around to find Vivian in the doorway, her smile sharp as broken glass. She was dressed for brunch in a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, her blonde hair swept into a perfect chignon. "My mother's emerald necklace," I said, my voice steady despite the panic clawing at my chest. "It's missing." "Oh, that old thing?" Vivian waved a dismissive hand. "I needed some quick cash for Scarlett's dress fitting. The wedding dress she ordered required additional alterations, and you know how these boutiques are. They want payment up front." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You sold it." "Pawned it, actually. Though I doubt I'll be getting it back. Scarlett's wedding is going to be expensive, and priorities are priorities." I stared at her, unable to process what I was hearing. "That necklace has been in my family for—" "Your family?" Vivian laughed, a sound like ice cracking. "Honey, your family is whatever's left after the dead are buried. And she won't need jewelry where she is, will she?" The casual cruelty of it, the way she spoke about my mother like she'd been an inconvenience to be cleared away, made my vision blur with rage. "Where's my father?" I managed to ask. "Golf course. Where else would he be on a Saturday?" I found Dad on the 15th hole, lining up a putt while his buddies waited nearby. The normalcy of the scene, the bright sunshine, the manicured grass, the sound of men laughing, felt obscene after what I'd just learned. "Dad, we need to talk." He looked up, squinting against the sun. "Can it wait? I'm having a good round." Vivian sold Mom's emerald necklace. His face went still. The putter dropped from his hands and clattered against the ground. "She what?" I told him everything. Vivian's casual confession, her laugh, her comment about Mom not needing jewelry anymore. With each word, Dad's face grew paler, older somehow. "I'll talk to her," he said finally. "Talk to her?" "Dad, she stole from me. From us. From Mom's memory. I'll handle it, Isabel. I promise." But when we got home, Dad's version of handling it was a quiet conversation behind closed doors. I could hear Vivian's voice rising and falling, victimized and defensive. When they emerged an hour later, Dad looked defeated. "The money's already been spent," he said, not meeting my eyes. "The dress alterations, the deposits for the reception, it's gone. So get it back." "Isabel, be reasonable. It's Scarlett's wedding. We can't just—" "Can't what? Make her pay for her own wedding like a normal person?" Vivian appeared at Dad's shoulder, her hand possessive on his arm. "Your father understands that sometimes we have to make sacrifices for family. Scarlett is family now. And what am I?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. That night, I lay in my childhood bed staring at the ceiling, fury burning in my chest like acid. I thought about my mother, how she'd saved for months to buy me a car for my 16th birthday, how she'd worked extra shifts at the hospital to pay for my college textbooks, how she'd never once made me feel like my needs were negotiable. And now her jewelry, the physical remnants of her love, her life, her marriage, was gone. Sacrificed so that a spoiled 22-year-old could have the perfect wedding dress. At 3 a.m, I remembered something Mom had told me during her last weeks in hospice. "I've left you more than you know, sweetheart," she'd whispered, her hand weak in mine. "When you're ready to understand what that means, call Harold." He'll explain everything. Harold Morrison had been my mother's lawyer, the one who'd handled her will. At the time, I'd assumed she meant the small savings account and her jewelry. But lying there in the dark, I wondered if there had been more to it. I waited until a reasonable hour, then called his office. Isabel. Harold's voice was warm, genuinely pleased to hear from me. How are you holding up, dear? I've been better. Harold, can I ask you something? When Mom died, was there anything in her will that I might not know about? A pause. What do you mean? I mean, did she leave me anything besides the jewelry and her savings? Another pause, longer this time. Isabel, have you not been receiving the statements? What statements? From the trust. The property management company should have been sending quarterly reports to your address on file. My mouth went dry. What trust? What property? Oh dear. I think you'd better come in. Can you be here this afternoon? Harold's office smelled like leather and old books, the kind of place where important documents went to live forever. He sat across from me with a thick folder, his expression troubled. Your mother was a very smart woman, he began. When she married your father, she kept certain assets separate. The house they lived in, your childhood home, she purchased that before the marriage with money from her own family. Legally, it remained her sole property. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What are you saying? I'm saying your mother owned the house outright. When she died, she left it to you in trust. Your father has been allowed to live there as a life estate, but only under certain conditions. He opened the folder and pulled out a document. One of those conditions was that your mother's personal property, specifically including her jewelry, was never to be sold, given away, or otherwise disposed of without your explicit written consent. The words swam in front of me. So if someone sold her jewelry, the life estate would be terminated immediately, and you would gain full possession of the property. I stared at him. You mean? I mean you own the house, Isabel. You always have. And as of this morning, when you told me about the necklace, your father and his wife are in breach of the trust terms. The next part happened in a blur of phone calls and legal documents. Harold worked with efficient precision, decades of experience guiding his hands as he prepared the necessary papers. I'll need you to sign here, he said, pointing to a line at the bottom of a document. This authorizes me to proceed with the eviction process. My pen hovered over the paper. How long do they have? 30 days is standard, but given the egregious nature of the breach, selling inherited jewelry, I can justify immediate termination. They could be out by tomorrow if you want. Tomorrow. I thought about Vivian's laugh, her casual dismissal of my mother's memory. I thought about Dad's silence, his refusal to stand up for me when it mattered. I signed my name. There's more, Harold said, pulling out another folder. Your mother also left you several investment accounts that have been growing for the past 4 years. The total value is now just over $2.3 million. The number hit me like a physical blow. What? Your mother was very good with money. She invested wisely, lived below her means, and planned for your future. She wanted to make sure you'd never have to depend on anyone else. I sat back in my chair, struggling to process it all. For years of thinking I had nothing, of feeling dependent and grateful for Dad's charity, and all along I'd been a millionaire living in my own house. Why didn't anyone tell me? Harold's expression grew troubled. The statements were supposed to go to your address. When you moved back home after your divorce, I assumed you were getting them. I never got anything. Then someone was intercepting your mail. The implication hung between us like poison gas. That evening, I sat in the living room waiting for Dad and Vivian to come home from their dinner date. When they walked through the front door, laughing about something, I was ready for them. We need to talk, I said. Vivian's smile faded when she saw the papers in my hands. What's this about now? It's about the house. Dad frowned. What about the house? Mom left it to me. The silence that followed was absolute. Vivian's face went through several colors before settling on gray. That's impossible, she whispered. Harold Morrison seems to think it's very possible. Would you like to see the deed? I handed Dad the document. Watched his face crumple as he read his own wife's name, then the transfer to my name upon her death. I don't understand, he said. She never told me. She didn't tell you because she was protecting me. She knew that someday I might need a place that was truly mine, where no one could make me feel unwelcome or disposable. Vivian snatched the paper from Dad's hands, her eyes scanning frantically. This can't be legal. You can't just throw us out. Actually, I can. Especially since you violated the terms of Dad's life estate by selling Mom's jewelry without my permission. Her face went white. You can't prove. I have your confession. You told me yourself that you pawned the necklace. In front of witnesses, if necessary. Charles, Vivian turned to my father, her voice desperate. Tell her she can't do this. This is our home. Dad looked older than I'd ever seen him, shoulders bowed under the weight of understanding. It was never our home, was it? It was hers. Elizabeth's. And now it's Isabel's. You have 24 hours, I said, standing up. I'm being generous. The legal documents give me the right to immediate eviction. Vivian's carefully composed mask finally cracked. Where are we supposed to go? I don't know. Maybe ask Scarlett if you can stay with her and her fiancé. I'm sure they'll appreciate getting to house the mother-in-law who stole from a dead woman to pay for their wedding. The next morning, I watched from the kitchen window as a moving truck pulled into the driveway. Vivian supervised the loading with sharp, angry gestures while Dad moved like a man in a dream. Scarlett arrived around noon, her face streaked with tears and mascara. She found me in the garden, where I was cutting roses from Mom's bushes, the ones Vivian had never bothered to maintain. Please, Scarlett begged. I'll pay you back for the necklace. I'll get a job, save every penny. It's not about the money, I said, not looking up from the roses. Then what? I finally met her eyes. It's about respect. Your mother looked at my mother's memory and decided it was worth whatever she could get at a pawn shop. She treated something precious like it was disposable. But the wedding, everything's already planned, deposits paid. Then you should have planned within your means. Scarlett's face crumpled. You're destroying my life over a piece of jewelry. No, I said, cutting another rose with sharp precision. Your mother destroyed your life when she decided stealing was easier than budgeting. By evening, the house was quiet again. Empty of their voices, their presence, their constant rewriting of Mom's memory. I walked through each room, touching surfaces that were mine again, breathing air that didn't carry the weight of their resentment. In Mom's old room, I opened her jewelry box and ran my fingers over the empty space where the emerald necklace should have been. Tomorrow, I would go to every pawn shop in the city until I found it. I had the money now, my mother had made sure of that. But tonight, I just sat in her room and felt her presence settle around me like a warm embrace. She'd known this day would come somehow. She'd known I would need not just financial security, but the power to protect what mattered. Thanks, Mom, I whispered to the empty room. Outside, the first stars appeared in the clear sky, and in my house, everything was exactly as it should be.